Good morning, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to let me explain our product, Vortex Weather Insurance. My name is Eric Anderson. I'm happy to be here. We're a proud partner of the Met section and the PGA section around the area, up around New York. Vortex Weather Insurance is basically a form of revenue stabilization. So if you think about all the events that you've ever played in, whether you're running the events or you've played in them and you've experienced bad weather, I want you to think about all those times, the charity events, the club events, the revenues associated with and the costs with running those events. So conceptually, think about that as I explain and walk you through this. So Vortex Weather Insurance is just a way to protect your revenue. It's for tournaments, seasonal coverage, fundraisers, pro-ams, corporate outings, golf vacations, and more. And I'm going to walk through that. Essentially, you want to, hold on one second. We're not going to the next slide here. Hold on. Okay, we went forward there. Okay, sorry, here we go. All right, so a little bit about Vortex. We are a subsidiary of MSI Guaranteed Weather, which has been in the weather risk management industry for more than a quarter of a century. Okay, so I've been in the business for over 20 years. Since 2008, Vortex Weather Insurance, we've specialized in insurance products for outdoor events, fairs, festival, concerts, races, Halloween parties, etc. And in beginning in 2019, they hired me. And so I went to the PGA show to consult and to find out if there's a need in this space for events. And after pitching this a couple hundred times, we realized that, hey, yes, there is a huge, huge need. In the past, it was priced too high, but now it's affordable. And I'll explain that and I'll show you some examples. We're also asked who writes our paper, who backs us. And the answer is Mitsui Sumitomo, and we're rated A+ by AM Best. A little bit about me. I've been with these guys since 2019. I've been in the weather, basically the weather insurance derivative space for over 20 years. I was the broker of Guaranteed Weather for over 15, so that's why they knew me. I played golf professionally when I came out of school in Augusta. I worked at Augusta National, so I've been in the golf space my whole life. And so when they came to me with this position, it was almost a perfect fit. So very excited to be with these guys and help consult for them. So basically the golf tournament fundraising, so just some facts here. So there's approximately 850,000 events and growing around the country, from club events to section events to professional events, junior events, charity events. It's a big number. If you think about how much an event raises on an average, it's around $5,000. But typically we price a lot of events that are much higher than that. Such as events that raise 250,000 to $1 million or more. But we do price events that only raise, 5,000 to 10,000, 20,000. Every dollar raised is wonderful. The charity events generate around $4 billion a year for causes in the US annually. It's a big number. And just another stat here, the PGA Tour, which is right around the corner from my house here in Florida, they generated around 200 million in 2019, totaling around 3 billion in all-time charitable giving. And we all know how wonderful that is. So conceptually, think about weather insurance, rain insurance versus property and casualty. Okay, the chance of sustaining an adverse rain occurrence for a golf event is significantly greater compared to traditional property and casualty event like car insurance or home insurance. All right, and I'm going to show you a map here. So here's the chance of a potential insurance claim on a single day over a 20-year period. Very, very small, right? Well, if you go to the map of the United States, okay, this is June July and August, right? A quarter of an inch. That's basically the percentages of it raining a quarter of an inch. So look at the New York and the Northeast area. All right, it's the probability is high. So that's just a quarter of an inch. And I'll walk through that in a second, but the applications of using weather insurance to protect revenue for tournaments, pro-am events, your member guests events, the corporate outings and fundraisers that come to your club, that want to keep coming to your club and use your club. And how does the application affect other areas like the food and bev and merchandise revenue for the tournaments, demo days, outdoor weddings, receptions, holiday events? So think about your club, okay? Memorial Day kickoff, which is coming soon. You might have a 2-day member into a big barbecue. But what happens if it rains? The golf, yeah, you can reschedule. It's not going to be as well attended, but all those people coming up and using the club, food and alcohol, etc. So you can talk to your club managers about how it affects the revenue of the club as well. The overall merch, people that come to your event at your club, if it gets rained out or they end up turning around on the way there, they're not going to spend as much in your pro shop. Okay, halfway through the event, if you don't have weather insurance in place, they end up leaving. They go home. They're wet. They don't want to go back out and wait 2 more hours. It affects the merchandise, the revenue in the pro shop, as well as the food and beverage. So again, if you keep thinking about the events that you're having at your club and the starts and the stops or the postponement, okay, that if you had the full insurance in place or partial insurance, how you would be reimbursed, whether it's for a quarter of the amount or the full amount, et cetera. And I can help show you that after this presentation and in the upcoming weeks. Okay, how does it work? Rain insurance is parametric. Parametric simply means it's based on a predetermined index. Okay, so rain insurance is triggered simply if the recorded rainfall meets or exceeds the threshold listed in the policy during the coverage period. So if you had a shotgun from 1 to 6 in the afternoon and you bought a half an inch of coverage, okay, for $50,000, if it hits the half an inch during those hours that you bought, you are reimbursed the full $50,000 in less than 2 weeks. It's parametric, it's not indemnity. If it hits the threshold, again, it's based on a predetermined index and you're paid quickly, not over months. The proof of loss or event cancellation is not necessary for the policy to trigger and pay a claim. And there's quick and simple claim processing. Payment is typically made in less than 2 weeks, which from the policies we've written, everyone loves hearing that. So Rain IQ. On our website, we have a portal. It's a calculator. It's like a mortgage calculator. You can go in there and we have basically calculations that you could put your event and the amount in there and back into it and play with it and the numbers, and it'll show you what the premiums would cost to the associated full amounts or partial amounts. It's very simple to use. So it's called Rain IQ. It's on our website. If you're, driving down the road, sitting at a stoplight, in your office, and you only have 30 seconds, not time to call me, you can go on there and it can show you basically roundabout what it's going to cost to insure an event. So a little bit more about how it works. So Vortex uses stage 4 claim determination system. All right. We provide instant hourly quotes. The claim determination system is through the government stage 4 data. Okay. What does that mean? Well, think about your event at your course. I was a member at Stanwich for 15 years. Before this was in place, if I had an event, I would have to use White Plains Airport to watch the data and keep the data for the rainfall. What happens if it rains over there and not Stanwich, or if it rains at Stanwich and not over there? There's basis risk of the recording of the data. So Now what they have are these grids that come out of the sky, 2.5 mile by 2.5 mile grids from the NOA, again, the government. So the data is kept from the government along with water gauges. Algorithms present the data, thus eliminating the basis risk or minimizing it. So the data is very clean. You can also hire somebody to come, a third party, for 250 to 400 bucks to sit there with a water dish and watch the rainfall come down, and that's up to you. So there's different ways to calculate the rainfall. And something to think about, the triggering rainfall threshold is as low as 0.2 of an inch of rain. We can go lower than that. Obviously the price goes up because the probability goes up, but I'll show you that in a second as well. So we always tell everyone when they're thinking about the cost of using us and this insurance, it's not the top line cost of buying the rain insurance that matters. It's the bottom line cost of not having it in place. And hopefully after this call, I get to speak with all of you and show you the different ways that we can help you craft a policy where it makes sense and it's affordable and it's in your budget. Now, on Rain IQ, there's shotgun coverage. We all know what that is. There's extended hours coverage. So if you have a double shotgun or a big 3-day member guest where guys are going off at 7 a.m. and they're getting done at 7 p.m., we can do 12 hours. So extended hours. Also, I did a 6-day master's hedge for a club in Augusta where, it's a big revenue week for him. So he said, Eric, what happens if it rains 2 or 3 hours before the first ball's in the air? Am I covered? I said, no. I said, but let me show you the cost. He said, because the backside of his course gets rained, some creeks go high and they can't play some holes back there. So I showed him the cost of having an additional 5 hours prior to the first ball in the air. So he got 100% more coverage and the premium only went up 50%. Pretty smart for him, having it be a big revenue week. So it's something to consider for club events, or as you share this information to the people that run charities that come to your courses. You can buy hours before, which I think is very smart for additional coverage. Now there's ladder coverage. What does that mean? So just say you have a $50,000 policy, right? You can pay premium that if it hits 0.2 of an inch, you're going to say get paid 20,000 of the 50,000 covered. If it rains 0.33 of an inch, you're going to get paid 33,000 of the 50,000. And if it hits the final threshold, you're going to get paid the full 50. Ladder coverage is a little bit more expensive, but again, it's a different dynamic if you're looking for something like that, which some people have looked into and used. So the hours of coverage, they can vary per day for multi-day events. So I just priced up Rehoboth Beach Country Club. They had a 5-9 hole match over 2 days that we've all played in, and you probably host at your club. So the first 2 days, or the first day is the 3 9-hole matches, right? And the second day is the final 2. Well, this policy was for 18,000. So the first day I priced up, it was for 12,000, obviously, and the second day was 6,000, right? So we can work with you to price up, where it fits and where it's smart. The thresholds, again, they range for when they trigger from 0.2, 0.33, 0.5, 0.75, 1.0. I just did a deal in San Diego. A guy wanted 0.4. So we priced up 0.4 and he bought a policy because he thought I showed him the data and he figured out conceptually that's the range that we would want for protection for, I think it was 40 or 50,000 for his event. Again, the insurance limits can vary by day. I just explained that one. And again, the custom parameters, sometimes you say, you know what, Eric, I want, if it's a double shotgun, I only want it through 3/4 of the day, because the second shotgun, if we get finished or if they get through 15th hole or 16th hole, I'm not going to send them back out. They're going to come in and want to have the auction, etc. So I can work with you with cost. We can take morning hours out and play around with the premium levels. So again, continue to think about all the events that you've had, where this would fit, and your club. Okay, so the use of hourly data allows us to concentrate only on the hours when rainfall could negatively impact business operations, right? We eliminating hours in a day when revenue figures are not sensitive. That's what I'm talking about. The front end, the back end, et cetera. So we can try to get the price down for you if cost obviously is an issue. But you want to have some form of protection in place. Customers may consider hourly coverage before an event when pre-event rainfall may adversely affect course conditions, like the Masters example. At least if we walk through some different policy options, let me show you the cost and the percentage of potentially having those hours in place, and the premium, which probably won't take it up too much higher, but to have a couple of those hours in place prior, I'll walk you through that and explain why you might want to consider that. Okay, so here's a grid that I'll send you of historical data. So TPC, which is right around the corner where Justin Thomas just won, right around the corner from my house. If you look at some of these hours on the right there, where you see 0.51, 0.75, those are the hours between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. that I showed them that if they had a ½ inch of coverage in place, and the total cost was high, covered. But here's a lot of days it doesn't rain, but some days when it does, the probability they would have been paid out, and that's the point of having this in place. But historically, you could say, hey Eric, send me the last 10 years so I can see what in and around these days the July 4th would look like, because it's a big tournament at the club. I'm happy to do that. I want to do that for you so you can see it and understand it. And historically, you could say, okay, you know what? I'd like to have some protection in place. So how is it priced? Well, rain insurance is priced using historical probabilities. Factors include geographic location. Like where I live in the summer, it rains here almost every day, little blasts of storms, which could trigger, if I had insurance in place, and then all of a sudden you come in, you go back out and you're covered, but you get to play golf. The time of year, the season. In the winter, it doesn't rain a lot down here. So the cost is obviously going to be cheaper. The time of day, afternoon, probably rains more than in the morning time here. And the duration of the risk period. Obviously, the longer the hours, the more expensive the policy, or the days, the cost will go up. So other factors include, obviously, the amount insured. 100,000 is going to be more expensive than 50,000. But we can also walk you through, rainfall threshold, deductibles. I can show you probabilities on having deductibles, et cetera, which I'm hoping I can do with all of you. So here's an example of a grid that I'll send you. This is down at PGA National, just in February. So an event from 10 to 3, what would it cost, Eric? Just on $10,000. Just say this is a club event, right? And you had a 5-hour shotgun and followed by a late lunch or dinner or something. What would it cost to insure? Well, if it rained 0.2 inches, the cost is $420. That in the event it rained that amount between 10 and 3, you're getting a check for $10,000 in less than 2 weeks. Obviously, when the inch threshold goes higher, the premium goes lower because the probability changes. But this is something that I can send you. You'll also see it on Rain IQ when you go on. So when you go in there and you play around with the calculator, this is what will be spit out for you. So conceptually, I also want you to think about the evening afterwards. So if you're having an event, okay, a charity event, or somebody comes and uses your club, and the day is, the golf itself is raising 50,000, but then afterwards you're going to raise another 100. Okay, what happens if it gets rained out and you only get the 50,000? Well, guess what? You could have parlayed the $100,000 into the 50. So you can insure the evening afterwards where you're going to be raising more money when everybody comes in from the golf and they're raising their hands and buying trips to Jackson Hole and sign stuff from Tiger Woods, right? So think about that as well. Think about these events where the golf was okay, then there was rain, people left, the silent auction, they didn't raise the kind of money they wanted to. Well, if they had weather insurance in place and they put that amount into the hours, they would have been paid 150,000, right? So conceptually, you can think about it from a club standpoint, or the charities that have been coming back to your club, working with you for years and years as an evergreen, or you can talk to the new charities and your GMs and say, hey, did you ever think about this and having something in place? Because historically, if you have rain insurance in place, I'll show you that over time, it's probably going to hit. And the amount of premium that you've paid will not even come close to the amount that you're going to end up getting back in a check over time. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that conceptually. I'm sure that there's questions, but these are the sections that we're partnered with. Obviously, you guys, the Met section, Carolinas, I pitched them on a webinar yesterday, both of the Florida sections, New Jersey and Philadelphia. Here's some testimonials. We're very excited to work with the sections again. We partnered up with all of them. Jeff's been fantastic. You guys have been fantastic. We look forward to working with you again. And thank you very much. There's Jeff's testimonial there. But I'd like to open it up to a few questions if possible. Thank you.
Looks like we've got a few in the chat. The first question, what is the minimum amount of premium to execute an insurance policy?
Yeah, great question, Caitlin. Thank you. So the minimum amount is $250. So sometimes, 25,000 in coverage, a half an inch will be $250. Think about that. But sometimes, it'll be $10,000 of coverage. That'll be $250 for a half an inch. But I will price up everything for you, or you can use the Rain IQ. But $250 is the smallest that we'll write.
All right, and another one from Ron Wright. Can a charity event insure just their event, or does it come as a rider on the club's policy? I chair for a course event at 4 clubs at once.
That's up to you. So if I understand that right, it depends on how the policy is written. You, the club, can write, we can write the policy for the club. We can write the policy for the event. We can write a policy for both for the same timetable. So the club is protected, the event is protected. So I hope I answered that question properly.
And then another question that came in, what happens if it rains and it hits the threshold and we still play the event? Do we still get paid?
Great question. I'm asked this almost every single day. The answer is yes. So just say your golf course drains well and you buy the same policy for $50,000, a half an inch, and it comes and it rains and your head pro or your super says, hey, course is still playable, put everybody on cart path only. Well, guess what? You get to have your event and you get paid $50,000. So the answer is yes, you get to double dip, which a lot of people like to hear. So then the question is, okay, Eric, let me see the historical data. So then I'll work with you guys. And we know this as a company. We want to write the best policy for you. So we'll walk you through the different kind of avenues and show you historically the data, and then help you say, okay, in the past years, what does my course, does it drain well? Does it not drain well? So, what time of year is the best kind of policy for a threshold to be hit? And then we can think about it together, and then we can try to target, an area where you think is one, affordable, but two, that makes the most sense. So if you do get rained on, the course is still playable, you get reimbursed, but you get to have your event.